Greetings gamers and welcome to the 140th live stream for the Misfit Gamer Studios. I am your host Vortex and this is D&D discussion. So sorry for the late start tonight. I have just been kind of behind all weekend just doing various projects. Cleaned up the our garage for most of yesterday. So yeah, I'm just kind of wrecked right now. But we are here, we are live, and things are very bright. Hang on, why are things so bright on me? I think it's my overhead and there we go. That's so much better. But greetings, thank you so much for joining me today. It is just me. Kage is out, so it'll be just me today on today's homebrew review. I know that the title wasn't updated as of just a couple minutes ago. Again, I'm a little bit behind, but we have Chronicles of the Forgotten Age. This is a re-review of one of Cosmic's submissions that was done. I don't even remember actually when that submission was. I was just looking at it and I probably should have noted that. But the original Chronicles of a Forgotten Age was, that was item number 33. So that was review number 33. And I don't have a date here, but I'm gonna look it up real quick. But yeah, we are gonna be re-reviewing that. And I have a couple notes that I had from our previous review. So I'm gonna be able to at least compare and contrast a little bit of what I had said before and what we were thinking with what the changes are. So that's gonna be a nice side by side. But we won't be doing a full comparison because again, we want to look at this one as its own item, but I do want to at least reference, what we had talked about before. And let's see, Chronicles of a Forgotten Age, item number 33, originally got a 7 out of 10. And this was going to get attacked. And let's see, we're on episode 140. This was the 50th episode, actually. So episode number 50 was Cosmic's first review. Looks like we had all of the new setup here, just some bad camera angles, but it does look like we had the new setup, which is really good to see. All right, so yeah, that was streamed 11 months ago. What was the date on that? December 18th. So yeah, December 18th and 11:25. Yeah, so almost exactly a year. Nice. All right, so I have my notes set up for that, and we have the new Chronicles of Forgotten Age ready for its new fresh review. What is going on, Serotonin? How are you? Nice to see you there. And then did I see your submission for stream? I do not pay attention to the submissions channel, to be honest. I do think I saw the notification go off, but I'm going to be honest with you, that is Kage's brainchild. Because I try to go at every single review blind, not knowing exactly what I'm gonna get. He's the one that basically, ever since we decided that, he's taken over that channel. So he runs it, he takes in everything, and I just get the rework. So if there's something new in there, I do believe I've seen the notification go off recently, but you're gonna have to ping Kage in the Discord to actually know if it came through. Because I don't do any of that. That's all. That's his project. Like, that's basically what he runs. I do everything else. Yeah, exactly. That is Kage's domain, and he loves it. Like, he came up with the idea of working with Goblin Notebook. He's worked with all of the formatting, but it's kind of nice. He has a way that he can do it without really ingesting any of it, so he's not having to read it in order to do it. He's basically, I guess, has a process to where he can copy paste with just getting like the sections in. And yeah, has a way so where he's not really like pre-looking at it, but it's been really nice for me because originally, I was recently looking at some of our old content, and originally we, I would just read it as it was sent to me. So whether it was a Word doc or in Discord, I maybe once in a while I would copy paste it to like a Word doc, but basically I would just read it as it came in. And it's so much nicer having a format like this, having something that we can give you guys, links to where if you like something that we review, we provide the links via the leaderboard. If you don't know that, the leaderboard is in the Discord. You can actually go check that out. Link is in the description, or not description. Link is in chat. But if you do want to check that out, you can go check out the leaderboard, and there is a link in our schedules channel where you can see the last reviewed item and the next reviewed item, and then there's a link to our actual leaderboard. You can see all of these items and the write-ups if you ever want to use them and take them. So please do that if you are interested, because yeah, all of this stuff is fantastic, and we do want it to be shared. I mean, everybody's, it's being submitted to us to share with the community, so we want to make sure that it is presentable, at least in the way that you saw it on stream, and then you can take it and do as you wish to it. Oh, you're looking forward to the review? Yes. Well, we do have Cosmic's item today. Chronicles of a Forgotten Age. The tome is going to be really interesting. I just kind of rewatched a little bit of some of what we talked about on the last one, so I got a little bit of a refresh. I took some notes on what we had discussed, what Kage and I had discussed, and what we had suggested for it. So I am really fascinated to see what changes happen, because now it's kind of fresh in my mind on what it could do. So yeah, I'm really excited. I don't know. Is this our, again, I wish I had Kage here. He knows all this stuff. I don't remember off the top of my head if this is our first re-review or not. I have to double check that. If this is our first official re-review. Does he mark that at all? That's so there's nothing that says re-review on here. He did put a oh no, what is that? No, it does look like we may have had one other re-review, but I don't think it was a worthwhile item. Because there was that one. I don't see it elsewhere. So this might be the first official re-review. If anything, it's going to be the first re-review of a viewer's item. I don't see any other item. Unless chat, unless you have been here long enough and know to correct me, I don't know if we've done another re-review before. So yeah, I'm really excited about this. A bit early? No, actually, I was a bit late on the stream, unless you're mentioning something else. Did I read over the Mimic armor yet? No, I have. I've been so busy this weekend. I forgot that you had posted more about the Mimic armor. Go ahead and ping me in that channel, please, before stream ends, and it will remind me to go look. Otherwise, I will probably forget by the end of stream. So just at any point, just go to that channel and just actually ping me, and I'll remember it. And then we agreed that it wouldn't benefit from the armor bonus. Oh, okay. So I will, yeah, just ping me and remind me of that, and then I'll try to think about that. Cosmic isn't our, yeah. So that was the one I was looking at, right? I was looking at Hat of the Neckbeards had V2 on it, but I couldn't remember where that one came from. But I think that came from one of the original high-lows way back in the day. I think that was one of the very first things I looked at. No, actually, no, I do know. Okay, so this is actually probably the most ironic thing. I don't know if irony is the right term for this. Maybe irony or coincidence. It's probably just more coincidence than irony. But I just realized after watching the episode today, because I was having to look through the transcript, Hat of the Neckbeards, the very first review of Hat of the Neckbeards, was in the same episode as Chronicles of a Forgotten Age. Cosmic, you can probably double check me right now, but yes, after we did Chronicles of a Forgotten Age, we then went to D&D Beyond, and I think that was the first time we saw Hat of the Neckbeards, because I didn't listen to it, but I remember scrolling through the episode and I remember seeing the top hat. I didn't sit to listen, but I remember seeing the hat, and I remember rolling my eyes when I was doing that, and then I went back to your item. So that's funny and a very interesting coincidence that the only two times we've done a re-review are literally from two items on the same episode. That's funny. Oh, wow. Kage's going to get a kick out of that. I can't believe that. I mean, what are the odds that the only two items that we've re-reviewed came from the same episode? What are the odds of that? That's absolutely hilarious. Oh my gosh. Okay. So this will be the second re-review, but the first community submitted re-review. So I'm okay with that. But good on you, Cosmic, for catching me. So other than that, no other updates from us right now. So I think we can get kind of just right into it. We don't have to really worry about it. How's ChillHop? Is it too much? I had to mess with the audio because I was gaming over the weekend. I did a Portal run, by the way. I finished Portal 1 and 2 back-to-back this weekend. Did not take nearly as long as I thought it was. I looked them up. It was supposed to be like 3 to 5 hours for Portal 1 and near 10 hours, like 8 to 10 hours for Portal 2. and I beat all of it in under like 6 hours, 7 hours. So I went faster than I thought, but probably because I'm not a normal gaming YouTuber and I don't do the prolonged gameplays and the, excessive repeats and the dumb gameplay. I play the game and I have fun with it, and I try to be snarky because I'm not good at talking through gameplay. But yeah, it was actually really fun. I have still Portal Revolution, which is, I guess, an extension of Portal 2, and then I have Portal what's it called? Portal Reloaded, which is an extension of Portal 2, and then I have Portal Revolution, which is a fan-made like Portal 3 or Portal 2.5. So I want to play both of those, so I'll probably play those one of these coming weekends. But yeah, Portal 1 and 2, that playthrough is on YouTube right now, unedited. It's, I don't know how entertaining it would be, but it was fun to play. Let's see. The original did get a 7 out of 10. So you were trying to beat your own score, which is definitely good. Always want to shoot for PB. Audio is fine. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And then I normally stream at 7. I started a bit earlier this time. So Kage is out. I don't know what he's doing, but he mentioned last week that he is out. And yes, this is actually the new stream time. I don't think you were on that stream 2 weeks ago. I think it was last Monday and then the Monday prior. I can't remember which one we announced it, but also last Monday we started at 6. So because it's getting darker outside, because the weather is getting crappier due to winter, Kage is going to start coming over earlier. Just so that way we don't stream nearly as late, because a lot of the times, especially since these streams have been going longer and we have been doing more content, some of our streams are pushing 4 or 5 hours, which when we start normally at 7 is pushing him not to leave here till 11, sometimes even closer to midnight, especially if we have any admin stuff to do after the fact. Sometimes he doesn't get out of here till midnight, and that's just not good, especially with just how cold it's been getting and how bad the rains are. So we're trying to get him out earlier, and just, off the roads and everything else like that. And it works with his new schedule, because I think he's doing some new stuff with work. So I think it works better with his schedule, but that's why he's not here. Or that's why we're changing our schedule, at least for until about maybe February. And then once February happens, we'll probably switch back to our normal schedule at 7. And then, yeah, as for why he's not here, you'll have to ping him. I don't know what he's doing today. We are Pacific Coast, so we are West Coast. We're California. So Pacific Standard Time. So right now it is 6:32 p.m., which is probably why you watch us so late, because you watch us until like midnight your time, which is crazy. But I guess it's not as crazy as Hoylepa joining us at 5 a.m. their time from Germany, which still blows my mind that I think we have 2 now. I think we have 2 of y'all from the community that I think Hoylepa's from Germany. And did we get someone from the Netherlands here? Was it the Netherlands? I want to say we had someone else from that area pop in, and it was funny because they kind of knew much better where, each of them were from and in relation to each other than I did. So it was kind of funny, but I always love seeing like little relationships like that. So yeah, it's kind of nice. It's odd. I don't ever expect to have that broad of an audience, but it is really nice. And it just kind of goes to show that, D&D is everywhere. And I love that. I love that it's a common ground that everybody can get on. And yeah, it's thrilling to just be able to see different points of view from, literally anywhere. And it all kind of, be for the same purpose, right? We're all going for the same goal of having fun, telling a good story, as Kage would put it. And yeah, I find it fascinating and strange, but also exhilarating at the same time. So, yeah, trying to have fun with it the best we can. But if there are no other questions from chat, I think we can begin our review today of Chronicles of a Forgotten Age, the re-review from Cosmic. I could probably... I forgot that actually happens. So I could probably kill his cam, and I'm gonna have to remember to undo all of this. I'm gonna hate myself later. That's all right. Future me can deal with this. There, how's that? Little bit better. I don't necessarily need to have that much camera space, but it's a little bit nicer. Maybe I'm a little bit I too dark now? Oh, jeez, that was unnecessary. Oh, no. Okay. Did it get darker? Hold on. It did get darker, didn't it? Why did it get darker? Okay. So strange. I have no idea what that was, but hey, it's good now. All right. Oh yeah, you had you went into way more detail than I think that we needed, but it was good. You know, it's always good to have it. But I do have my notes here about what it was, so I will make a couple references on what we had before, the most important things, and a couple of the notes that we had that Kage and I had discussed in the last episode. So at least that way we can see, you know, where it came from and what we think now. What's going on, Hecate? Nice to see you here. All right, so let us begin. You were just in time, Hecate. Let us begin with Chronicles of a Forgotten Age. This is a spellcasting focus in the form of a tome submitted by Kosmycpurge. The properties of this: it is a legendary item. It is of rarity. Hold on, brain. Take a step back. Don't get ahead of me. The rarity is legendary. It has a spell bonus of +3 for attack and saves. And the detect magic school is transmutation. Now that is interesting because that was not what it was before. And this, I'm gonna get back to that in a second, but the attunement is required with wizard. So I'm gonna let my brain slow down just a little bit before I get ahead of myself even further. But there are a few changes with that. So let me get those points over to Hecate and we will go over the changes that I noted. So first thing I want to note is the +3 is still there. It was always a +3 tome, but we have had a change of the magic school. So before, when you were able to cast detect magic or I think sense magic, any of the ways that you would be able to detect it before, the book gave off chronology. Now we're giving off transmutation, which is interesting because before the mindset was about, I guess, altering time, if I remember correctly, like altering the probability or the alteration of like an altered universe. So this is going to be transmutation, which is interesting. And then the attunement has also dropped now because before Cosmic had the attunement as a wizard specifically of divination, enchantment, or order of the scribe. Those were the 3 original attunements. So we've dropped that. Now I definitely want to say I like that. I do like that we've opened this up and it's not so focused. I think that's because he's changed the magic school. And I don't really have any reason to comment on the magic school change just yet because I don't know what we've done with it. But if I remember correctly on the original abilities, I'm actually not entirely upset about it because while chronology made sense for some of the original abilities that I remember, in the sense of like an alternate universe or an alternate timeline, I like the idea of transmutation. If any of the abilities are still what I remember, I really did like, I really think transmutation is going to be the right way to go, but I'll reserve that until we see what happens. But I do like the reduction in attunement. I still like that we have a +3. So I'm good so far all the way. It used to be chronology at the attunement was changed. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm really happy that we have those adjustments. It's a little bit more approachable. It's not as specific. It does feel more usable by almost any DM instead of feeling like the campaign has to specifically be designed to have that type of a wizard. So good so far. So let's go into the description. A strange and ancient tome rumored to have been crafted before the planes themselves were. That's interesting. I'm going to put a pin into that because that's also changed. None understand how such thing is possible. Who may have created it? Not even the gods of modern age know of its origin, nor understand the meaning of its contents. All right, so already the lore has changed just a bit. Before, I remember the lore being that this was like before time itself. This was before all creation. This thing was basically made by the ancients, if you will. So I do kind of like, you say the planes, and I'm assuming that, like the you know, the multiple planes of D&D itself, but I do kind of like how it's a little bit more grounded in the timeline of D&D and not quite before everything else. It still has a very rich mystery, but it doesn't feel like extremely impossible. And especially because we are, the way that we're utilizing it, I remember not feeling like it really, like the powers really like did it justice for having something that existed, you know, before all time. So yeah, I really do like that we've had a slight alteration of the lore, making it more within the bounds, but still making it mysterious and ancient and before, you know, what is known. I still really like all of that. And then as an action, placing a scroll into the tome and closing the tome's cover, you can choose one of the following effects based on one of the 3 command words you speak. So this is where we are also going to get a little bit of a back and forth as well, because I did make some notes on what this could do last time. How's it going, Red Lego? How you doing? I saw you pop in previously, but nice to see you back. The reduction in attunement. Well, I mean, you did reduce the attunement requirement, so it doesn't sound more limited. It sounds more open. Like you did reduce the attunement requirement, which is itself a limiter. But I guess I can understand what you're saying. But yeah, you didn't. I mean, I guess you could say that you opened up the attunement, if you will. Exactly. Yeah, Rod of Many Weapons. Interesting. I will have to look up that one. I don't know specifically the lore behind that one, but if that was like an ancient weapon, I'll have to look up that one too. All right, so I do have my notes here for the original spell, so let's see what this thing can do, because it does have a few command words that look mostly similar, but not quite maybe. All right, so the first command word is transcribe. You can put in a scroll that contains a spell not on the wizard spell list. That tome can automatically translate the writing into a language you can read and understand. The time taken for this process is 1d4 hours plus double the spell's level. Interesting, put a pin in on that. Once the process is complete, you can cast the spell a single time as if it were a wizard spell, using your intelligence save DC, despite not being on the wizard spell list by default. A first level spell scroll would take 1d4 plus 2 hours. Now that's fascinating. I do like this one. I really, really liked this one. In the previous review, I still like this one. This one fits absolutely amazingly. And this is one of the examples that I mentioned where previously chronology didn't feel like this really matched, but this the transmutation really does feel like you're basically taking something. And Kage and I had a discussion about this in the previous episode where he was a little bit hesitant because he wasn't down with the idea, or he felt like he wasn't okay with the idea that we were taking wizard spells and or taking non-wizard spells and making them wizard spells. But that's, I try to explain to him, like, that's not really what we're doing, right? We're not actually altering the spell itself. We're just basically, we had a small conversation of, we were taking spell scrolls and changing them into spells of XYZ, which, you know, mechanically speaking is just a sense of, can anybody cast it or can nobody cast it? So the idea that you're essentially taking something, you know, physical that you normally wouldn't be able to cast yourself and kind of giving yourself a one-time use of it. I love that. I think that is such a cool item, especially for something that's like a +3 magic item. And for a wizard, that is so awesome. But the big change that I did notice is previously it was a 1d6 plus the spell level for the time taken that it would for, I mean, how many hours, right? So it was 1d6 plus the, 1 hour per spell level. So it used to be for a single level or first level spell, it was a minimum of 7 hours. So now we're looking at a minimum of 6 hours from it. But I do really like the addition of doubling the spell's cost per hours. So a 5th level spell costing an additional 10 hours, a 9th level spell costing 18 hours. I really like that, right? Because previously it was only going to be, you know, it was 1 spell per level. So it was going to be, you know, 1d6 plus 9 hours. So at worst, a 9th level spell would cost 15. So, I mean, it's still a long time, but I really do like the doubling of it. I feel like it scales a lot better and it makes it feel more impactful to the story, which is what, you know, Kage and I look for a lot. Is it's not just how impactful is it on the battlefield, but how impactful can it be when it's utilized in the story. So I think transcribe is better now with the alteration of the 1d4 plus 2 hours. I think that's a great option, or a great alteration. And otherwise, yeah, it works, I think, the exact same way that I remember it. So I don't dislike it at all. And let's see, didn't send that info into. Okay, cool. So it's in Homebrew. Gotcha. Thank you so much. Perfect. And then command word boost. Okay, so yeah, and the previous one was transcribe as well. So the command word didn't change. All we really changed was the 1d4. That's awesome. And it looks like Cosmic's confirming what I'm saying in chat, which is awesome. I'm glad that we're on the same page of that. So yeah, transcribe is phenomenal for a +3 tome for a wizard. I think that's so awesome. Both utilization wise, I think it's great because it should be one of many things that this thing can do instead of the only thing it can do. I would definitely feel bad if this was the only thing it can do, but as one of the things that your personal spell book, your tome can do, I think it's not only phenomenal for mechanical use, but being able to have that as something that you can roleplay with, having a side plot to go and get your hands on an evil wizard spell, or be able to go to a magical library and secretly consume these spells. Like I really do like the action, the options of this. And then the one thing I think that Kage would mention here, though, and I think that I will try to have this conversation without him, but I do think that this would be something that he would bring up, is I have a feeling that at this point he would say, I really like it, but I'd want to see a limit to how many spells I can stack. I think he would, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong for a +3 tome. Maybe he would feel like this isn't something because you are still burning time regardless. But I could also see, I think I could see justification, not a need, mind you, but I could see a justification for saying that you can only have so many spells. Like essentially it comes with a couple blank pages just for this purpose. So you could only have a number of spells like equal to your intelligence modifier, your proficiency modifier, or maybe it has a set number, maybe half your level. A number of spells equal to half your level could be really interesting. But I'm going to throw that out there, because I'm trying to, I don't want to just run through this in 20 minutes. But also I'm trying to think about things that, Kage would say. Based on our last episode, he really did like this just as much as I did. We both thought it fit. But yeah, the only thing I can think of that has an option and even a close alternative would be considering having some sort of limit on how many transcriptions you can have at one time. I don't think it's necessary, to be completely honest. I think the amount of time you burn and the simple fact that you still have to in-game roleplay and adventure to discover a spell that you wouldn't be able to normally cast, and all you're doing is packing it in your spell book for a one-time use in the future, I don't see that. And I don't think Kage would see that as overly OP. And this is obviously not an item that you would give to a level 3 character, right? So it's not some, like super abusable concept. I mean, it's not giving you an extra spell action or anything else like that. But I will say that the argument could be made. I don't know if it would be a strong argument, but trying to think of, the back and forth Kage and I would have, I think he would say that there is a consideration for it. But again, I think he would also agree it's not necessary. It works by itself as it is. I mean, you're thinking it's a +3, so you're probably going to give this to something past level 8. And at that point, the in-game, time to find spells that you couldn't normally do. I mean, unless it's a situation where you're using roll tables and treasure tables and they happened upon a dungeon that has a big roll table and they get a crap ton of spells that nobody can use, then maybe it feels a little bit abusive. But again, you're only adding a one-time use to your spell book. It's not that big of a deal. That's basically like just saying I bought a whole bunch of spell scrolls, like scroll of XYZ, right? It's not really that big of a deal since it's really just a one-time use. So I'm going to say it's not necessary, but there could be an argument for it for the sake of content. All right, so moving on to command word boost, which used to be called command word upcast. I like the name change, to be honest. It feels better. It sounds better. You could even, possible like maximize, or, if you wanted to be, that direction, a little bit more Transformers like, or, it could be called enhance. It could be called improve, empower. There's a lot of different words, but I think boost over upcast is still a better direction. All right, so command word boost. The spell contained within the spell scroll, or within the scroll, I think it's supposed to be tome. The spell contained within the tome, or the scroll that you put the tome in. Oh, that's right. No, it's the scroll that you put inside the tome. That's how it's reading. Spell will contain within the scroll can be upcast at any level up to 8th. Ooh, put a pin in that. If you do not possess a slot for the desired level, you gain 1 point of exhaustion for each spell slot level above your maximum upon casting the spell. This effect cannot be used to upcast a spell to 9th level. As example, a scroll fireball is a 3rd level. If the highest spell slot level you can use is 5th level, using this effect to cast the spell from the scroll to 6th level, you'll gain 1 point of exhaustion. 7th level will give you 2, and 8th will give you 3. Okay, so originally this was a little bit different. You were able originally to do up to 9th, so I like the cap of 8th. I actually think that we were a little bit wary on how that would actually scale up properly, especially with the points. So I do like that you've capped it at 8th instead of 9th. What else did we have here? And it was and it was still 1 level of exhaustion per level beyond your max. So I know that for us, we did feel like it felt a little bit much, especially going up to 9th level. So I do think the cap at 8th is justifiable. And we had a very long conversation about how to better balance out the levels of exhaustion. I think I offered up, there was an option for set limits. So any increase to level 5 would give you an automatic 5 points of exhaustion. If you upcast to a level 8, it would automatically give you 4 points. So basically making those higher spells, heftier. But the problem was that it didn't have balance because you couldn't cast too many spells at once, which would, overload you. And that's not really what it was used for. I know Kage had even mentioned, I think, giving up to a certain point for free upcast and then a set point beyond that. So at least that way, the idea is anything, above the standard. So anything above like 5th level would really start to wear you down. And I think we were both kind of thinking that, definitely you don't want to be able to do more than like 1 or at absolute max 2 9th level upcasts before, your character would drop. So we were talking a lot about modding how the exhaustion would work. So with it being capped to level 8, I think that still benefits. 1 point of exhaustion for each spell slot above the maximum upon casting the spell. So I think in light of what having recently just listened to our previous conversation, I do like the cap at 8th, and I think, again, I wish Kage was here to have him discuss. I don't know what his ideas would be fresh, but I do think he would agree with this idea. With the points of exhaustion, I don't know if... Okay, so maybe I need to reread this. So for each spell slot level above your maximum upon casting the spell. So Cosmic, let me know if I'm reading this right, because when you say above your maximum upon casting the spell, so let's say I can normally cast a 5th level spell, but let's say, no. Okay, so it's the, no matter, even if I don't have a 5th level spell to cast, or I don't have a, a 5th level spell slot or whatever, I'd still be able to cast up to, anything above 5th level would give me the exhaustion, is the way that I read this. Is it doesn't matter how many I have left. So I think that's where, for me, I wish I understood like spell casting better in 5th edition, like off the top of my head. Because so the highest spell slot level you can use is 5th. So when it says the highest spell slot you can use, that's just at the time of casting, not your total period, but it's at the time of casting. Is that correct? Because that's how I want it to read. That's how it makes the most sense, but I want to make sure that that's what it means, is it's at the time of casting. So even though you may, after a long rest, be able to cast you know, a level 6 spell at the time of trying to do this upcast, you were unable to do so. Is that how that maximum works, or is it just whatever your maximum would have been at peak condition? I think that's the only thing I'm trying to figure out is how that works for Magic. I wish I had like Kage to kind of better explain like the actual breakdown for what that actually means in terms of, because normally when you're upcasting, right, you have to have the ability to cast the spell that's above it. So it's based on your current level and the slots it gives you. Okay, so it's not okay. So it's based upon where. Okay. So. So I think my biggest thing is I don't know if I'm saying this right, but I think for me, the wording sounds better if it's not so much that it's the highest spell slot level you could use, you know, at peak. I almost want this to be able to do it as it's the highest level you could cast it like at that time, if that makes more sense. Like if you wanted to, you know, cast a scroll a fireball at level 3, but you don't have a 5th level spell slot available, and you wanted to go up to 5th level, then you would get levels of exhaustion. Even though if you had a long rest, you'd have a 5th level spell slot available. That's kind of what, but I guess that wouldn't really work because this is happening outside of combat, so that doesn't really matter. That's where probably Kage would have corrected me on that one. So if that doesn't matter because this is just taking time. Well, no, this isn't taking time though, right? Because this is essentially instantaneous. Yeah, there is no time frame here. This is just you put it in there and you're upcasting it right then and there. So the book is upcasting it for you. Yeah, I think that I still agree with our previous comments. I do like the limit to level 8. I still think it needs to be more expensive for how much it can upcast, but I don't know exactly how that would work. Like how I don't know the best way that it would adjust. I'm not super familiar with exhaustion. He even explained it to me in the last episode. That's exactly what we talked about in the last episode is what exhaustion does. Yeah, I do like the limit to level 8. I don't know how to improve the exhaustion though. And I think it's just because I don't understand exhaustion entirely. So because I know at 6 points you die. Before that, it lowers your speed and I think your saving throws. And maybe what I need to do is look up I think I need to pull up an actual like the wizard spell slots. See, this is why it's nice to have Kage here because he has all of like better links ready to go. And I'd be able to wrap my head around this a little bit faster. Because I want to say that there's... Right. So what we're saying here. So I'm trying to get an idea of this example with 5th level. So let's say you're a 10th level wizard, right? Trying to use this as an example of you're a 10th level wizard, which means that you have 2 5th level spell slots. So you're in combat, you've burnt 2 5th level spell slots, but you want to upcast Fireball to say 5th level. Nothing would happen. Even though you don't have the spell slots because based on your level, you could have an open spell slot. You could upcast it to 5th level and nothing happens. If I wanted to upcast it to 6th level at level 10, it would give me a point of exhaustion. If I wanted to upcast it to 7th level at level 10, it would give me 2 points of exhaustion. Do I have that right so far, Cosmic? Right? So at level 10, let's say at level 10, I've burnt my 2 5th level spells and I've burnt 3 4th level spells. Okay. That's, I think, what I have a problem with. And I think that's where I needed to see this list or Kage to understand this. But I think what I have a problem with is you don't... See, I think, okay, so yeah, sorry, really trying to formulate. I would normally have Kage here talking, so I could think about all of this while he's talking. This is why I rely on him a lot. So, I think my problem is I think I just don't like the fact that it's granting free upcasting. So in exchange for higher spell slots, you get exhaustion for each higher than the spell. Yes, but I think the problem is like, so for the example, if I'm a 10th level wizard, but let's say in combat, I've already cast both my 5th level and all 3 of my 4th level spells. If I wanted to use this on Scroll of Fireball at 3rd level and upcast it to 5th level, it's free. It would automatically upcast it for free anytime I wanted to do that. Whereas if I wanted it to go to 6th level, then I would gain a level of exhaustion and then 1 every other time before that. But because this is like attuned to the wizard, I feel like that's doing a lot of heavy lifting. I know it's not going to be common for you to do that, but I still feel like scrolls are common enough that free upcasting is, I think, the problem that I have in terms of you don't have to pay anything if it's going above, if it's not going above your absolute, in a perfect world, like, again, after a long rest, that's the max we're going with. I think exhaustion should be based on the max that you currently have. So in my example, as a 10th level wizard, if I burnt both my 5th level spell slots, but not my 4th level spell slots, and I wanted to upcast Fireball to 5th level, I think that would cost me 1 point of exhaustion because I don't have 5th level spell slots available. But because I have a 4th level spell slot available, it doesn't burn it to upcast it, but because I'm attuned with the book, it's fusing with my power to say, okay, you already have the power to do 4th, so do I. But you don't have the power to do a 5th, so I have to take that from you. That's what that's the problem that I'm having with this, is it's not costing me anything to, because if I'm smart at higher levels, I would never use this to upcast beyond a level that I can cast, right? So if I get to a point to where I can cast 6th level spells, I just would never upgrade it. I would never upcast to 7th level. I would just always cast up to the point before I would ever get exhaustion. But I think that's the problem, is I think that if I don't have the spell slot available to cast the spell, then that's why it should cost me exhaustion to get to it. So if I'm at level 10, even though I could at peak cast 2 5th level spells, if I burn all of my 3rd, 4th, and 5th level spell slots and I'm out of those spells and I can't cast them, but I want to do this example of upcasting Fireball to 5th level, that should be 3 levels of exhaustion because I don't have a 3rd, 4th, or 5th level spell slot active. So it's having to literally siphon that, and that's the exhaustion. Whereas if I had only burnt my 4th and 5th level spell slots and I still had a 3rd level, it should only give me 2 points of exhaustion because it's only siphoning, it's siphoning off of me my exhaustion in order for me to get to a spell I couldn't normally cast. So it's still giving it to me for free, but it's only giving me for free what I could already have done for myself. Kind of like, it's helping me help myself kind of situation. So I think that's my solution to the boost is I like the cap at level 8. I think that's brilliant. I just think that the exhaustion should happen because I can't do it. I don't know if I like the fact that I can upcast anything to a spell level that I know for absolute free without costing a spell slot or an exhaustion. Like, it's just a free upcast. I don't know how I don't know how I wouldn't want to abuse that every single time. Because I mean, again, I would just hoard spells and upcast them very safely as I racked up, right? I would just find 2nd and 3rd level spells, wait till I can cast a 6th or 7th level spell, and then never upcast it to 8th. And then once you can cast 8th level spells, you're basically using this for free. I mean, that's the other problem, is if I can cast 8th level spells and I have this, I can upcast for free forever. I can always upcast every spell scroll that I find, and I don't like that. I think that it needs to cost me something, because again, it's like you can use this as long as you're full up, right? This is your excessive use. But once you have to basically start using your own spells, like not ones that you have easily in spell scrolls, that's when this becomes less effective. I think that is the balance there, because yeah, once you learn an 8th level spell, which is at 15th level. So as soon as you get to 15th level, which again, I don't know if I would see this in the hands of someone as any earlier than 8th level, but so like halfway through your gameplay, only a handful of levels of having this, and suddenly it's infinitely spammable. Every spell I get into this, I can upcast it for free, whether or not I have spell slots available. So I think that's where I'm having a hard time with it, as like a DM perspective, because as a player, that's all I would do. I would hoard spells and always max upcast them up to the point before I gain exhaustion. But if there was that small adjustment to where if I didn't have the spell slot available, that's when it gave me exhaustion, I think that would be a better balance and a better action economy than just only doing exhaustion if I want it to go higher than what I can already cast. Because then why would I? There's no incentive for me to use the exhaustion ability once I'm able to cast a 7th level or a 6th level spell, right? Because that's the whole point, is we're trying to bring these spells into a higher zone. But if I can get it safely into a higher spell slot without worry it's going to hurt me, I don't know why I wouldn't. I don't know why I would risk it. So I feel like the risk reward has to be a little bit higher on this one. What did you say, Cosmic? I think that's the intent. Didn't think about when changing the tome, and the effects are designed with the assumption you're fresh from a long rest. So yeah, and that's the kind of thing, is, I mean, personally, I kind of like the idea of something that starts off strong with you and gets weaker with you, but it doesn't get weaker with you. It needs more from you, right? Like when you're at your best, it's siphoning off all of that extra because of it's the attunement, right? But when you start using up your power, it has to start taking that power from you somehow, that, the power that you don't normally have. So yeah, I don't know what you think about that, but that would be my only change. I love that it's capped at 8th. I still think that it needs to be more costly, and so I think it shouldn't be the highest spell level that you could cast. I think it's the if you want to upcast it beyond a spell that you're actively able to cast, that's when you start taking exhaustion. So if you could cast a 7th level spell, but you don't have higher than a 5th level spell slot, anything beyond 5th level upcasting is going to put you into exhaustion. That would be my call. I hope that makes sense. Hecate, I don't know if we got an explanation from Cosmic exactly why it was exhaustion was chosen. That's what I'm trying to put into the lore. Like, because you're attuned with this book that was created so long ago by some ancient, I can understand the lore being it's tapped into your energy. And so when you want to do something that you normally couldn't do, it has to find a way to be able to do that. So exhaustion's like it's pulling almost kind of like life energy, or it's pulling more energy than you have to give, and that's where you're getting exhausted. Is it's literally feeding off of you in order to do the thing that you've asked it to do. So that would be like my in-lore reason why exhaustion's there. And then what about it costs equal to how much you're casting from the original? It costs, I don't quite understand what you mean, Hecate, by it costs intelligence equal to how much you're, like, what do you mean by it would cost intelligence? Like, oh, like actually intelligence points? So you would just get dumber as it gets used? That's pretty harsh. I don't know about that. Because that has a lot of interesting implications, and that affects a lot more roles. So it's like, I feel like for a tome that might be asking too much to reduce your ability in combat just to upcast. That might be too much of an ask, at least for a tome that's meant to be used a little bit more often. that would be a great like capstone to like a weapon or you know, like a powerful weapon. That would be kind of a cool like major ability that you could use with it. But I don't know if this item would work so well with adjusting your with your intelligence that dynamically. But yeah, otherwise I like boost. I love the idea of being able to get some special upcasting going on. I just feel like it needs to cost a little bit more. I feel like with this, the biggest flaw is that I'm just going to spam upcasting things up to the level I can cast. So anything below a 3rd level is now being cast at a 5th. And then once I level up, now it's being cast to a 6th. Once I get high enough level, now they're all being cast to a 7th. And I just would never take a point of exhaustion because I would just never upcast anything beyond the level that would be safe. And I feel like that's, if you're going to do that, that's fine. But there's really nothing, there's no incentive otherwise. Whereas if it's only the level that I could normally cast it at, you know, the idea is that, let's say I can cast normally 7th level spells, but now I only have 3rd level spells and lower to cast. So sure, I could cast Fireball at 3rd level, but I happen to have a Fireball spell scroll or a scroll of Fireball in my pocket, and I can only cast 3rd level spells anyway. But if I grab that spell scroll that is of a spell that I could normally cast, I can't upcast it myself. I throw it in my tome and say, hey, I'm going to upcast this to 5th level, even though I don't have that slot. I'll burn the 2 exhaustion points because I need that extra damage. That's what I'm thinking, right? But if I were able to do that for free, then you're basically giving a wizard who can collect enough scrolls, you're basically giving them infinite spells and infinite upcasting. Whereas if it's based on what you can cast, sure, if you are really, really good with your management, you don't burn any of your personal spells and you only burn your scrolls, that's fine. You'll burn a lot of your materials, which scrolls can get expensive. But it's kind of like, I want this to have more of a cost in a pinch. I don't want this to be a grand savior, but more as a, once you've burnt everything else that you can do and you only have your spells left or your scrolls left, it's that cautionary aspect of, well, if I want to upcast this, it's going to take a lot out of me. So I think that was my duality mindset for how boost should work. This is technically a weapon. It might not be melee or sword or range, but I guess it technically is a weapon. It is weird to think of a tome as a, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I consider spellcasting focus a weapon. I think of them more as like magical items, like a wand. I don't, some things are, interesting in terms of what the classification would be. So yeah, I don't know. I'll have to look that up one of these days. I'll have to see. I'm going to write that down. I want to write that down. I'm going to write that down so I can research that a little bit more. So what level is supposed to get that? So my prediction is, I would say probably no sooner than 8th level, but this is definitely a mid to late game. So I'm thinking, I would see this around maybe 8th level, all the way up to 12th level. I get what you're saying, Cosmic, that, yeah, any DM could work around any exploiter, but again, you also don't want to, you want to make items that, it's easy to make an item that encourages exploitation or encourages, or just doesn't encourage its full use, right? And that's what I'm saying is, in this particular case, the way that it works as written, I just feel like there is no incentive for me to ever cast beyond my max, right? If I can cast a 6th level spell, knowing I could go an 8th level spell and get a couple of points of exhaustion, I just don't know why I ever would. No matter what the scenario, I don't know why I would be tempted to do so. But in a situation where it only costs me exhaustion if I don't have that spell slot open, it challenges me as a player to be much more mindful of how I utilize my spells that I've prepped and the spells that I have in scroll form. So that's my biggest thing. And yeah, you could push it, but I don't know, when I think about creating an item, I don't want to put a lot of work on the DM or the player to make it work. I want it to kind of encourage both sides to be able to work with it, out the gate as much as possible. But yeah, so that's all I really have to say though, is I do like the reduction. I just think that, yeah, I think it still could just cost a little bit more and be less spammable, because yeah, it just seems like it doesn't really cost enough when it's only beyond your absolute max. And that only would really affect you. Like I said, it only would really affect you badly early on, because I mean, you're casting 5th level spells by 9th level. So unless you're getting this super early on, and it can only go to 8th level, I mean, between 9th and 15th is when this becomes mostly usable. And I just don't know if by the time you get, you know, to that 15th level, I'm basically every spell I cast via scroll is always going to be for free. In terms of, it's not going to burn any spell slots. I'm always going to get it at my max upcast. So it's more about doing materials than it is my actions. So that's where I would see it, is it's later in it's in later games that it seems a little bit dicey to use for the DM. What's going on, Marty? Nice to see you. All right, so let's move on to the third command, which is command word consume. And this one, okay, this one is also the same name. It used to be command word consume as well. Command word consume. The spell contained within the scroll is consumed, with its magic converting into charges for the tome equal to the spell's level. That's fantastic. I'm glad you added that verbiage, because before I think it just ended with its magic's converting into charges for the tome. I don't think it had the equal to the spell's level. So I like that little addition there. The charges can be used with your reactions on subsequent turns to add or subtract them to any rolls, ability checks, or saving throws on any one creature except yourself that you can see within 60 feet of you. You cannot use this effect if you are blinded or unconscious, or the creature you want to apply this effect to is visible or invisible. Each charge can change the result of a roll by -2 or +2, player's choice. Charges. The tome can hold a total of 40 charges. Criticals. The effect cannot be used to negate a critical hit or critical miss. No, at DM's discretion, this item may be granted alongside a 1d4 random spell scroll of 8th level or lower containing spells from any class. DM rolls d4 for the number of scrolls, then a d8 for each scroll to determine the level of the spell scroll. Awesome. Okay, so a couple things here that I've already noticed that are changes from my notes here. So first off, we have gone from a maximum of 20 to a maximum of 40. And it's also a little bit different because before you had to get the total number of charges. So before you had to get all 20 before you could start using it. This seems like the verbiage has been changed to where once it has charges, they are usable. So I like that change. That makes it so much more versatile. I don't know if we mentioned that before, but I do like that they are immediately usable and you don't have to wait till they're all capped, because then once you got 20, it was kind of weird on like how long did you have to use it. So I like this. Just anytime you burn a spell, you have these. I also really like that you capped the rolls at a -1 or -2 or negative +2, because before I do believe that you said, I don't think there was a cap. I think before you were able to just do whatever. So that's really nice. I do like that. So I like that even though you have 40 charges, you can't change it by 40, right? You can only change it by 2 at the time. So I do like that. That means you get 20 times. If you have all max charges, you can do this 20 times, which is great. And it used to have a secondary ability, which is interesting. It used to have a secondary ability, which you could use your reactions to basically spend 10 of the 20 points and double any healing magic's effect. And that one was a little bit of an interesting add-on. We liked it, but it was a little... it just felt kind of outside of it. So I like that it got cleaned up here. I like that we got rid of the... Yeah, I like that we got rid of the heals. I like that we went up to 40 charges. And I like that we capped it at the 2. No, I think 2's good. I was trying to see if there's a justification for being able to give more, like maybe like, you know, 1/2 your proficiency modifier rounded down or up or whatever. Like that could be interesting, but you know, because I'm just thinking like a +1 or +2 isn't always great, but that's kind of the great part about this. With 40 charges 20 times, you're not, you know, you could spam this a lot or you couldn't, right? You could just kind of throw it out there. So I do like that. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Am I misreading this? Each charge can change the result by -2. Oh, so each charge. Interesting. Hold on. Did I misread that? I thought it was just a maximum of each roll could only be adjusted up to 2, in a sense, using 2 charges. Did I misread that? Okay, that's interesting. So it's per charge. You can change it up to 2. That's interesting. It did used to be 90 feet, but I wasn't there just yet. But yeah, it does use 90 feet. And it could be used on yourself. Yeah, I do think that healing needs to get changed. Like we're in agreement that healing needs to get changed as well, base rules. But so with this one, I see that's the thing. I don't know if it should be a 1 to 2, especially because there's no limit on how many you could use. I thought this was limiting how many charges you could use in one take. If you're not limiting how many charges you can use in one sitting per reaction, then I would have to say that it has to be a 1 for 1. You have to burn 1 charge per alteration of the dice. Doing 2, I think, gives you far too much power. Because again, spell scrolls aren't the hardest thing to collect. And I just, yeah, I think that it has to be a little bit more. So I think just a 1 to 1 could change that, especially if you're, because if I can blow all, you know, because this is to what kind of rolls? Reactions to on attack rolls, ability checks, or saving throws. So yeah, you wouldn't be throwing 40 onto somebody, but I mean, burning 3 to get a +6, that's, you have so many charges, you know what I mean? Like that's so generous, and I don't know if that's in a good way. So I wouldn't be comfortable giving them a 2 alteration per 1 charge, especially if there's no cap. You know, if there was a cap of 2 charges per roll, maybe, but yeah, I would have to, I would say that it has to cap at one die change per roll, instead of 2. I don't mind the 40, you know, the 40 cap at that point, because again, it's only for attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws. So you're just basically helping people, you know, fail or not. But again, that could be, you could do so much with that, which is so versatile. It's interesting that you got rid of self. I'm curious if you have any explanation for that. And then, yeah. So spending 3 charges to get a 6 is, I think, just absolutely way too broken, to be honest. That's just so powerful, especially with potentially 40 charges. I think that's way too much. But I'm curious, why did you remove being able to change it to use it on yourself? Because I don't think we had a problem with that. I think we really liked it in terms of the idea. I don't think we had a problem with using it on yourself. I do know that we had mentioned it should, I think Kage was the one to mention that he wasn't 100% sure about the distance and whether or not it should just be someone that you're engaged with. So I kind of like that it's at a distance, but I mean, again, yeah, double the amount of effect at 60 feet. Even I feel like this is just way too powerful. I mean, I really like that you don't let it hit on crits. Like, you know, crits are safe, but yeah, I think 60 feet and double the effect is just, it's too easy to again spam that. I think it would have to be a 1 for 1. And yeah, I don't know if now that it's been changed, I don't know if it's necessarily, because I kind of like the idea that you can use it on other people. I guess that would be the change up that I would say is, if you're gonna use it as ranged, then it's best you can't use it on yourself. And if you could use it on yourself, then maybe it shouldn't be ranged. Maybe that makes the most sense, and therefore I can be okay. And yeah, at the later levels, I guess 60 feet's probably better. Definitely way better than 90 feet, but I feel like 60 feet could be justifiable, but I could see some players feeling like that's not enough, especially for a wizard. I think that a lot of players would want the wizard to have a little bit more range, especially if you're more of a support character with this ability. So 60 feet's good, but if you remove yourself, and yeah, I would just have to change the 1, the 1 for 1 versus a 1 for 2. I think that's the things that would make me feel a little bit more comfortable with this one. Made the effect go the opposite way. I don't remember. You made the effect go the opposite way that we wanted. Okay. So yeah. Yeah, removing it from yourself and keeping it at distance is probably the way to go. Because I think that, yeah, if you were gonna be able to use it on yourself, then yeah, you would have to remove the range. And I think that's kind of what we were getting at, is it had to be either an engagement ability or it had to be a distance ability, but having it be both, I think, was too much. Yeah, I don't know if Kage would be, I don't know how he would feel about the 40 charges. I don't know if he would feel that that's too many, but I do think he would agree with me that a 1 for 2 on changing the result would be too much. Definitely too much for abusing that one. But otherwise, I do like the changes though. And I do like that it doesn't affect criticals. I think that is exactly how it should be, because affecting criticals is just something that I think, again, swapping it from, if I was going to use this against players, no players would want their criticals to be able to be messed with. So I think that that's a good call, especially as it's going to be a lot rarer for the enemies to do crits. So yeah, so transcription boost, consume, that was all the same ones. We did have a couple other suggestions, but none of those seem to apply to this. But yeah, I think our biggest thing was... yeah, that seems to be the only thing that we made our notes about. So that's where I would go with there. And it looks like you removed an entirely other ability as well, which was the strengthen self, which that was the one that just, we felt our biggest thing about that one. It didn't fit. It gave quite an odd character bump for a very, like, was that what, 2d8 days? It gave your character a +3 to all their base stats. And I think, yeah, we just said that one didn't really fit. So I do like having seen that one get cut down. Yeah, so that one was really good too. Is because that one just, yeah, that kind of a capstone concept of getting all your charges, burning them all at once. I see why you kind of wanted to do that with like burning them all at once, but definitely now that you have 40, it wouldn't work that way. I could see an argument for limiting the charges to 30, 10 per magical plus. 40 does seem a little strong. It seems stronger when you're doing the 1x2, but I could see an argument for 30 charges instead of 40 at its base. But otherwise, yeah, no, this works a lot better. I think this runs a lot smoother than it did before. It's a lot less convoluted. And it's a lot more focused. It sticks to what it feels like it's trying to do, which is basically tap into, some unknown level of magic manipulation. And I really dig that for a mysterious type of tome. It works with the lore. Its abilities are unique enough to be mysterious, but straightforward enough to understand how powerful it is. And yeah, the only other, I guess the only other thing that I could really say about it is that consume does kind of, I don't want to say it goes off the rail, but it does go off track a little bit in terms of affecting your ability score, since the other two are so much more about modifying the spell itself, and this one allows you to react to, yeah, I would almost want to make the argument that consume, when you alter, like when you use the charges as a reaction, it's almost like okay. I think that's it. Okay, so because transcribe is dealing with spell with actually changing the spell to a way that you could cast it, boost is changing a spell in the way that you would be able to use it. An alternative form to consume would be that instead of using your charges to add or subtract them to attack rolls, ability checks, or saving throws, what if you could use your charges as a reaction? And actually, I would even be okay keeping the 40 charges at a 1 for 2 with this, the more I think about it. So what if you were to change the charges from changing somebody else's attack ability or saving throw to what if you could use these charges to add or subtract at a 1 for 2 rate damage to outgoing or incoming spells? Because I think Kage would love this idea, because that goes so much better with the tome, right? One is altering the spell so you can cast it. One is boosting a spell up as it is, and then consume, being able to basically consume those charges, and as a reaction, almost like counterspell. But it's a different form of counterspell where you could you could take those charges and either obliterate someone's spell into, no damage, or heighten one of your own, or maybe, one of your own or one of your allies' spells and bump the damage up. And if you do that at a 2 to 1, that would be, at max, that would be 80 extra damage. That doesn't feel that bad for a late game. 80 extra damage doesn't feel super game changing, but it does feel devastating when that could be the difference between the ending of the fight or 2 more rounds of combat. So now that the more I think about it, the more I like that idea, that this shouldn't be, because it's hard to justify why it can take in spells, but why is it that its consumable affects other people's actions? I feel like it would make more sense that if it affected other magic or even your own magic. So that might be the extra alternative that we didn't talk about last time, which is using these charges to increase or decrease damage of magic, of like incoming or outgoing magic, because that could be in and of itself a really unique way of having your own version of counterspell, because it is a reaction, right? So it's like at basically any point, burning a reaction to counterspell, and it's not really counterspelling, their spell still goes off, but just reducing the damage is, and then being able to control it at a 1 to 2. I feel like I would feel way more comfortable with that than adjusting people's abilities, because it feels like that would go along way more with the lore than being able to see someone do something like an attack ability or saving throw. And a lot of those don't make a lot of sense either, in terms of like knowing that that's happening. Like that's always one of those things that I think Kage and I have talked about before, about what do you really notice or what would you really know in combat, whereas a spell going off, I think you would definitely be more aware of. So that would make more sense in terms of the logic for me. 7 out of 10 boost ability has a major loophole. Effect 3 is OP being the same as the OG, so effect 3, the consume, it doesn't spark interest like the same worse than the original. I thought was that changing a spell so you can cast it, 2 changing the spell's level, and 3 being a way to defend against a spell used against you or something of that effect. Which and I totally get that. That's why I'm thinking changing it to where instead of adjusting attack rolls, ability checks, or saving throws, being able to alter the damage of a spell up or down. I think that would be way more impactful, especially to the lore of this tome, right? This is a tome of unknown magic, or at least of magic at a time where something or someone understood it far beyond anybody else. So a tome that it itself could sense outgoing or incoming magic and fuel it, I think would be a really interesting idea. I don't think that there would be anything wrong with doing it that way. But transcribe is awesome. Boost, I think, has gotten better. I definitely think it's better and in the right direction. And consume, I think consume is definitely going in the right direction. I still think as written, it's a little bit too strong. I really actually like the idea of it acting as an alternative to counterspell. Just as a different form of counterspell. I think it would, and just like you were saying, right? If it's supposed to be a defense against spells against you, that would make a lot more, you know, I mean, and you can even do a small alteration to the charges where if you want to make it more defensive, you can say that you can use the charges to boost a spell. If you are increasing a spell's damage, it's a 1-for-1. So 1 charge equals 1 point of extra damage. But if you are reducing damage, it's a 2-for-1. So for every charge, you reduce a spell's damage by 2. So that would lean it more towards defensive. It would make it much more, it would make it much more effective as defense. But you still get the option to use the consumption to, enhance magic otherwise. So, yeah, I think that's pretty cool. One thing I did want to do real quick is, since I didn't have Kage, I did run this by some AI analytics as well. So I wanted to see, because I don't have Kage here to give you a secondary opinion, so I wanted to see what AI would say about your thing and see how close we would get to it, based on what it knows about 5e and everything. So let's go over that real quick and see if we can get inspired by anything it says, or if it's just basically the same thing. The way you say, like, consumes better alternate spells damage. Would this apply to your parties fighting in melee? Would it help with crit damage? It's like when crits do less damage than the normal. So I would say that if you're going to use it to enhance magical damage, it should just be magical damage, right? So spell damage, specifically spell damage, not like melee damage or anything else like that, but specifically when it comes to spells, right? Because if you want it to be defensive against incoming magic, I think that would be a really interesting way to portray an alternative of counterspell. But again, I also like the ability of you being able to just boost your own magic. But I would say keep it focused on spells, because that's exactly what it's doing, right? One's transcribing a spell scroll into something that you can cast, the other one's upcasting a spell scroll, and then the other one's consume the spell scroll to alter magic in a radius of 60 feet. Basically, you could word it that the tome itself has a 60-foot aura, and any magic cast, as a reaction, you can pump it full of these charges and either reduce or increase its magical ability. That's the direction I was kind of going with it. So the way I'm hearing that is that what slow fall is to fall damage. So yeah, basically very similar. You're basically like, I mean, unfortunately with slow fall, it doesn't have the alternate, but yeah, very, very similar. You're basically incoming damage would be slowed or reduced in its effect by the tome, right? Or, I mean, if you also want to look at it as another analogy, like sound waves, right? Incoming sound waves, if you hit incoming sound waves with sound waves of the right frequency going back, you cancel them out. That's basically what the tome is you burn these charges and it sends out, like the opposite of that magic's energy, that spell's energy, and it cancels it out up to a certain point, however much you've pumped into it. So again, different alternative. What was I looking at? Oh yeah. So what did AI say about this? Gave me a short description of what was going on. It does suggest that this is a very powerful and versatile weapon. It doesn't believe that this is overly broken or imbalanced by 5th edition mechanics. It does say that it gives the players a tactical advantage throughout combat. Let's see, weaknesses or limitations. So exhaustion from boost. While the exhaustion is a severe penalty in D&D 5e, some players might find it worth the cost for high level upcast. It finds an interesting balance, the fact that you have both something that can be used in combat, like the boost and the consume, but you also have transcribe, which takes time. So you have it notates the duality of both in-game and out-of-game combat. And it also notes about curtailing selfish tendencies of players by the fact that it does limit this to only other people that you can see in terms of the consume factor. So I find it interesting that it's notating the teamwork aspect as one of its like benefits. It specifically says in terms of power balance, legendary power level, this item is appropriate for its legendary rarity. It provides a substantial power spike, but it is balanced somewhat by its usage cost, time, exhaustion, or channel or charge limits. In terms of game impact, it says that in the hands of a creative player, this item can shift the balance of encounters significantly. However, it is flexible. Its flexibility and power could lead to overshadowing other party members if not carefully managed by the DM. So even AI does recognize that this does have a lot of showboating power, and could potentially really shift things in the player's favor if not followed, closely by the DM. So consider that. And I kind of like that. I kind of wanted another option since Kage's not here. And then so here's what AI has for its suggested adjustments. Limit scroll level. So consider capping the level of scrolls that can be transcribed or boosted to 6th or 7th level to prevent abuse of higher level spells. Reduce the maximum charges. Lowering the maximum charges to 30 instead of 40 could temper the consume command's overwhelming potential. And that's one of the suggestions that I made, was potentially going down to 30, especially because we have a +3. It kind of makes sense that you would have 10 per. And then adjusting exhaustion impact, increasing the exhaustion penalties slightly or making recovery from exhaustion tied to specific conditions, requiring a long rest per level of exhaustion, could add more weight to the boost's usage. So again, even it suggests that the exhaustion may not be enough for the way that this spell is used. So I kind of like that. So it does look at this as powerful. It does seem, based on this language, that it does view this as a player-friendly or player-leaning item. But I kind of like that it also has about the same suggestions that we do. It seems that it really is looking at, potentially the spell limit might be too high, the maximum charges may be a little bit too high, or the exhaustion may not be high enough. So very interesting, very similar to what I said, just not in as much detail. But yeah, I thought that would be kind of interesting to go through a second opinion, since we don't have Kage here to discuss. I also had that pulled up just in case somebody wanted to be cheeky and cut me off and do a real world, an IRL voice ban when I'm the only one here. Because I thought about that too. I thought about that after the IRL voice bans that y'all did last time. I'm like, what's going to happen if someone does that when I'm not here? So now I have to start thinking about having like some kind of script ready that I can just play when I'm not around. So that would be kind of messed up, but hopefully y'all don't get any crazy ideas. You like that analogy about the sound waves and canceling them out on the opposing waves. Yeah, that's because the way that you've described this, right? I mean, this thing is an ancient type of power. It works in ways that we don't understand. And when you're talking about it being able to transcribe, like I think about this as like, it's like a book. It's kind of like ChatGPT, right? You gave it something you can't read, and it gave you something that you can not only read, but use. And then Boost is basically saying, hey, ChatGPT, here's my resume, make it better, right? That's what I'm saying. Transcribe and Boost are basically ChatGPT. So when I think of like consume, when I'm giving ChatGPT more info to utilize, what I'm thinking of is it's going to be able to decrease the amount of errors that it has, or it's going to be able to increase the effectiveness. Ergo, if I have random incoming input, like, a new spell or a new piece of document, because I've given it stuff to consume, it's going to have a much better output, as in it's going to be able to summarize something. So it's going to take a lot and bring it back down to a little in a much more effective way. Or I'm going to be able to give it 2 bullet points and say, write me an essay, and it's going to give me a much more clean essay with less errors. So that's the way my brain works in terms of like what I'm viewing this as. So yeah, when I think of like this aura, right, I'm thinking technology, and I'm, thinking sound waves. If a spell's coming in and this thing is basically all it does is affect magic, and you want it to be 60 feet and it's a reaction, I kind of feel like you could also flavor it. You could also even word it as it has its own reactions equal to you, right? So you could even say that it has, or it shares your reaction. So essentially, you don't have to put it in the lore that the character is reacting. You could say the book is reacting because it has an aura and it's using your reaction. So yeah, so just a couple different ways that I would look at how this lore is bringing me into this. So I do like the changes, but again, small little tweaks I think would make it more high point friendly, but compared to your last one, definitely better. In terms of usability outside of high point, this is far more usable than the first one in terms of anybody I feel could pick this up. Now, in that sense of balancing, I do feel like a lot of DMs would struggle with a party with 40 charges and a 2-for-1 with all of these abilities. I think this is, in terms of universally, this is the hardest one. It's very, very powerful. Everything else works. I think for most players in most campaigns, I think boost works as is. I think transcribe works beautifully. I think the biggest issue with boost is scrolls can be plentiful, but that is a very easy change a DM can make if they know that this spell is coming in. Or it could just be a quirk of that particular campaign. The consume part, universally, I think is the one that can be abused the most. It's a lot of charges and you give it a lot of ability. So outside of high point, I still think it's really great. I think within high point, I would just make, again, a few alterations, make it a little bit more costly, or at least change when it costs you to boost. And then I would change, I think I would, in high point, I would change consume to being almost a counterspell AoE, or an aura of counterspell, if you will. But it's not even counterspell, it's alter spell, right? It's up or down. I think I would change it, consume more to what we would call, what is it with sorcerers? Meta magic. Basically change this to a meta magic, right? Because it's still transmutation. You're transmuting the spell that's already been cast and you're just giving it or siphoning power away. So that's the direction I would go with consume. But universally, I would just say a 1-for-1 and 30 charges, I think would be more universally acceptable for most DMs, to not be overwhelmed by the players, because players already min-max a lot. I feel like this would just help with that. So to help other DMs, this is the only thing I would really change for anyone else. For high point, I would also change the exhaustion, if that makes a little bit more concise sense. Here's a question. What about magical items that outside cast spells for you, like a wand of magic missile, necklace, or staff, one that's being which got robbed? So I would say that as long as it's a spell, I would allow consume to use it. It doesn't have to be a spell from a scroll. It doesn't have to be a spell from a person. I would think that command word consume, if we're talking about this idea of an aura that can alter incoming or outgoing magic by a reaction, and you use your charges, I think it should be anything. I think it should be a fucking glyph of warding. If you set off a magical trap, like what's the magical trap that like a dragon appears and like does its breath weapon? Because alarm doesn't do like damage, right? So it wouldn't work against alarm, right? You would there's no damage coming out. But if you had one of those traps that actually does damage, like an actual, not like, because something like, a magical trap that sets off a physical dart is one thing, but a magical trap that shoots magic at you and does magical damage, I think you could, as a reaction, use this to dull that, right? I would like this to basically be any magic damage within, and I don't mean magic as in it wouldn't affect magical weapons. So just because a weapon is a +3 magic item, it doesn't affect that. It would have to be spell-based magical damage, right? So a glyph of warding is spell-based magical damage. Or I guess you could consider it's the rock blowing up that gets you, but those semantics aside, as long as it's a spell-based damage, I would think that I would allow it to protect you, because that's the whole point of it being like a defensive thing, right? You could just walk through a place and be protected by incoming damage up to that point, right? It's almost like a traveling, what's the magic sphere that follows you, like anti-magic shell. It's like a follow you anti-magic shell, and as long as you have it charged up all the time, you don't have to be worried about being the target of damaging magic until it runs out. So I kind of dig that. You basically have this like little like protection about you all the time. I wonder whose the bot is. Well, I never said I was human. What about spells that give conditions but no damage? So again, I think that this should be purely basing on damage, because you've already, that's kind of falls in line with what it's doing. You're transcribing spells in order to be able to cast them. You're increasing the spell itself by its own nature. And then this last one is, it's because consume is basically, in this particular case, it's basically the boost spell, but reversible for any spell around you, right? That's basically all it is. But instead of increasing range as well, it's only targeting damage. And I think that's the beautiful balance, right? Being able to have it defend against conditions and having to defend against anything else, I think would make it too powerful. I think it would make it too versatile as a weapon. And at that point, you might as well take away Transcribe and Boost and just make it a defensive tome. Just make it to where all it does is protect you against magic. But because it does the other two things, I think just purely focusing on damage from the spells would be the way to go. That's probably the way I would go in High Point, because then that way you can still be put to sleep. You can still have blindness. You can still have, darkness cast on you. You can still have silence cast on you. All of these things, you can still be put to sleep, but specifically damage would be the thing to do. I think the conversation is, are we talking about direct or AoE? Like a fireball goes off near you, can you decrease the damage of fireball? And then it's to how many creatures, right? And that's where I think it would be more of like targeted spells, like AoEs. I don't know if I would accept that they can do AoEs, because then you're talking about how, are you defending everybody within the area? It makes more sense that this would be like targeted spells that target a single individual for damage. That's the ones that you could increase and decrease. I think that's the bigger question, is whether or not AoEs happen. So yeah, that would be my suggestions, but excellent ideas. So in the end, so it has been an improvement for sure. I do still like the idea of this. I like the idea a lot better. I can imagine someone using consumes effect to alter an incoming spell's damage to 0. And that's the point, though. That's my whole point. That's what I would want, right? Is I would want this thing to be able to not have any limit on how much I can, because that's what I'm saying, is if you did the damage alteration, keep the charges at 40 and keep the 2-to-1 ratio, because then at that point, I know most spells can't do that much damage, but being able to essentially negate 80 points of damage at level 15, again, doesn't sound game breaking. Depending upon how often you use it, you could use this a bunch for low level spells or one time to keep the barbarian from going down. And that would be kind of cool, right? Is it's just this like one time aura of protection. The semantics about it are what type of spells, AoE spells, or is it targeted spells? And is it anybody within its 60-foot range, or is it only you, right? Those are the bigger questions that you'd have to really work out balancing wise and put them through some play tests of when does it become too powerful? Like how protective should it be, and whatnot. So, but then again, you can harken back to your previous build, and you could say that at any time, you could spend any number of charges to, alter damage of, like, let's say a direct spell against a single target, you can alter the damage, right? But maybe you could also add in a capstone where if you have all 40 charges, and then you use this ability, you have the choice that anyone within its range is protected from all damage, or the maximum damage, right? So if you had all 40 charges and you cast it like a mass protection, anybody within 60 feet of you that's an ally is protected up to 80 points of damage from incoming magic, right? So something like that would help like a whole party against Meteor Swarm. So you could even go one step further if you wanted to give it that capstone. I'm kind of glad you took away the capstone because it doesn't make it as convoluted and it lets the players go elsewhere with it. But again, just spitballing with the magic idea, that is a way that you could take it, but I'm not 100% sure it's the way it needs to go. But let's see here. So yeah, with all of that, so I do think it's an improvement. I think it's going in all of the right directions. Universally, I just think that, again, when it comes to anything else other than High Point, I think this is your biggest issue right here. 40 charges and a 2-to-1. I think it's going to just overload DMs. That's my only concern, especially because it's attack ability and saving throws. This is what everybody tries to do with feats and other aspects. Like I feel like, even like ChatGPT said, it's it's to the point to where this might also make it too much of a showboaty character. So that's my only advice for you. As is, my only advice for universal use is change this up. For high point, I would change the consume to the AoE effect for magic damage, and I would increase how much exhaustion gets. And again, the only thing I would change is it's not based upon the maximum you can based on your level. It's based on pushing it past the spell slot that you currently have. So even if I can cast 7th level spells, if I only have 3rd level spell slots actively usable, anything beyond my 3rd level would cause me exhaustion. That's how I think it should work. Those are really everything. Everything else works just fine. The lore's great. And I do think that this still has a lot of options for DMs to take on and make small alterations themselves, right? This doesn't feel so locked in that a DM couldn't look at this and go, oh, I really like this, but I'm only going to give them 20 charges, and then change nothing else, right? This is written in such a way a DM could easily make that call without feeling like they have to go through and mathematically calculate everything. Everything's really well laid out. It's very simple to take in, and it's very simple to alter based on the setting or the campaign that it's in. And I really, I love that you changed it to transmutation. I love that we dropped some of the retunement requirements. Yeah, no, this is looking really, really good. It's much more succinct. I think it's a lot more approachable now. So in that particular case, I think we're going to give this one an 8 out of 10. It's an improvement. This one, way more than the last one, belongs in high point. Still not quite there to be used, but yeah, for compatibility, this is so much closer. Yeah, I just can't get over it. It's really just that, man. It's really just that, and I would just make it cost a little bit more because upcasting and high point is meant to be. It's meant to take a lot of effort. It's meant to be an issue. Magic is so intertwined with everything. It's not just about this spell contains more energy. It's a whole process. So yeah, I would need more exhaustion, and I think consume. Personally, I think it should be more focused on altering magic. So altering damage is the way I would take it. But I could see other people liking it this way. I know a lot of people want to min-max the abilities like adjusting attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws. So this could be clutch. I mean, being able to change those is so massive in most games that I agree that this is what most people would want to do. I just feel like most DMs would feel like this is the thing that they have to pay attention to the most and how they're going to work around. And I feel like that's asking too much for DMs to pay attention to one item when, they have a whole campaign to run, right? They have a whole party and all of their, items to deal with. I don't want to basically ask a DM, hey, here's a really cool item, but you're going to have to pay attention to this every stage, every step of the way. That would be my only things. But otherwise, yeah, no, fantastic. I really liked that review, and it's a much better rendition. I think that one did much better than the hat. What was it? The Hat of the Neckbeards. I think Hat of the Neckbeards didn't do as well as this one did in terms of its second review. Yeah. Well, no, Hat of the Neckbeards got a 6 out of 10. I don't know what it got before that, so I don't know if it improved up or down, but yeah, this one goes up at least. So congratulations. 8 out of 10 is pretty decent. Would this replace the original 7 out of 10, or is it counted 2 separate items for the sake of overall averages? So it is considered 2 separate items because you essentially did alter it. Now, Kage and I have talked about this a little bit before, and I've let him know, there has to be substantial change for us to actually consider it like a re-review. If it's just like a description change or it goes from legendary to, rare, that's not enough, right? But there's been enough substantial changes that these are 2 different items. If you read these side by side and had different names on them, they would just be 2 different tomes. So we're going to keep them on the leaderboard as 2 different items. This way people can see both reviews. They'll have both access to both videos. They'll have access to both of the transcripts, or not transcripts, but both of your both of Kage's write-ups here. So that way, if people in the future, they will be able to they'll be able to compare them. They'll be able to use either one that they like more. And you will also have a record of it, right? You'll be able to watch as time goes by, especially, if you've made changes to it, you can go back and reference those as well. So they will both be on there. Your average will consider both of them moving forward. And yeah, they'll be on there forever. So I believe they'll just be called I think it's just going to be Chronicles of Forgotten Age. And then I think the other one's V2. but we might call it re-review. We might try to label those ones specifically as re-reviews. But yeah. This Homerus is slowly coming along well. With some aid from Marty, it's looking better than I could imagine. Awesome. Well, we are definitely looking forward to that one. Math time. Overall average with this new one. Well, let me look. Luckily, I don't have to do any math because Kage has all of this set up for me. So I can just log in, hit a few buttons, and I ain't got to do shit. Cosmic. We go Kosmycpurge, and we click that one because that one was just reviewed, and then I take away things that you have submitted but not reviewed yet. So Cosmic's average out of 22 items that we have reviewed, there's only one TBD because it was technically not finished. So we still need to finish the Pinnacle. That was one of your earliest submissions. So it looks like you're oh, I gotta write this one in. Chronicles of Forgotten Age, that is an 8 out of 10. So with this new 8 out of 10, your average is now up to 6. Is that 6 even? Really? Is the math right there? I think. Okay, so double check with Kage later. He might. I think he did fix the math. It does look like he fixed the math. So all of the math should be right. So yeah, you have a 6 out of 10 with all of your items. That does seem low though. Before this 8 out of 10, oh, you know what? Hang on. I think I see the problem. I see the problem here. Okay. Okay, so from Cosmic. Okay, so just that one. So it does look like, okay, so it does look like it's broken right now still. So let me do some quick maths. Quick maths. And 8. Okay, so before today, with 21 items reviewed, your total was, or your average before today was 6.095. 6.095. And today, your average is now 6.18. So still a 6, but that is where we're at. And we have, looks like we only have 3 unreviewed items from you at this time. Damn, that's a lot. So many items. I rarely log in to look at the leaderboard. We have so much going on in here. But it does look like, let's see here. If I remove all of that, and I remove those, so the average item total, so the average total for the entire community right now, well, all of reviews are 6. And if I remove D&D Beyond, and okay, so if I only look at viewer submissions, and viewer submissions total is averaging 7 right now. All right. Okay, so those all are working. Everything is working. That's fine. As long as everything's working. And we have quite a few unreviewed items to go. How many? How many are we at? We just finished that one. So where are we at? We have 36 items, at least on the list. I don't even know if this list is updated. So I know we have at least 36 more items. Wow, that's 36 more weeks of reviews. Y'all are giving us a lot to work on. I love it. I absolutely love it. All right, well, that was it. So Cosmic, you got your averages, you got your finals. Hopefully that was good for you. Hopefully that was interesting and entertaining. I am interested to know if you do decide to change consume. Let us know in the Discord if you end up going a different route with the damage, or if you're going to stick with the attack ability and saving throws. I'm also curious once you get to actually throw this in a gaming campaign, whether you're gonna throw this into a gaming campaign that you're the player in, or if you're gonna throw this into a gaming campaign that you're DMing for. Let us know how this works in terms of actual playthrough or actual like play testing. So I want to see how this actually would work, in a group with like a whole party, instead of just from the from the viewpoint of theoreticals. I'd like to see what an actual party thinks of this while it's in someone's hands. Just under 6.5. I'll have to double check Kage's math then and see what's going on there, because I don't know if he has other filters that I'm unfamiliar with. So double check with Kage. He can give you he can give you the official number, because he's the one who runs the leaderboard. And I don't know if there are any filters that I'm not familiar with. So, all right. But with that, I think that we are good to go. Otherwise, it's already 8 o'clock. Not too bad. Got through a good review. I'm gonna see if there's anybody worth. Oh, we got Blackwater D&D. They are playing. Nobody that I know though. Blackwater's pretty good. You guys are interested in D&D gameplay, but otherwise, I think we're going to be done for the night. Nobody that we know personally is on right now, so I think that we'll just end it instead of raid out. Let you all go choose who you want to watch next. But do I have the names of your next three items? I do. The names that I have showing for your next items. We have the Jurisdiction of Apocrypha, Prediction Edge, or Predictive Edge, and Twin String Bling's Compound Bow are the 3 items that we have listed for you, Cosmic. Let's see what we got. I got 7 from Hecate, we got 2 from Marty, 15 from Dez, 16 from Dez, 8 from Pokeniner. So quite the mix. Let's see what we got. We got some creatures, some weapons, some races. We have a lot of races. Quite a few subclasses still to go. We have a lot of races. A couple creatures. I'm really curious to see the creatures that we get too. Oh, we have a background coming up soon. Ooh, more backgrounds. I have no idea which ones we're going to do next, Cosmic. That is a question for Kage. Try and say that last one 5 times fast. No. Because I probably couldn't. Yeah, like that's a hell of a name. But I do like it. I'm really curious about a 2-string bow. That would be really cool. I had thought about that when I was looking at Cosmic's Umbral Ember's Descent when I was doing the Photoshop for it, and I wanted to like make it look better. One of the things I was thinking about doing was adding a 2nd string to it, just because it would look kind of cool. So I am really interested to see the idea behind that. Though I will say this, for something like a double-stringed bow or a 2-string bow, I am much more interested in its actual design than its mechanics. Like, one of the things I love doing in D&D is actually building out how something would work. It's just something that my DM used to have us do, and I loved doing it, where we would have to break down, materials and actual functionality. So I'd love to know the ideology, other than just saying it has a 2nd string, actually being able to like have someone draft up how that's actually designed and workable would be really cool. I have one from you that didn't list that Kage needs to check before streaming the review. Well, you'll have to get with Kage for that one. He's setting up his own rules for updates. I know he mentioned the rules last week on stream for how he wants updates and when you guys can submit updates, because yeah, I'm letting him run all of that and letting him make the calls, because I think he's a lot more generous on accepting updates than I would be. I'll be honest, I don't have the time to keep up with things. So yeah, if he's accepting updates, just get with him on when you guys can submit those and when he wants to get those in before review. I'm not sure which item that is, but yeah, just hit him up for you, Soul, because I think actually, Soul, there's nothing on the list that I see for you, so that probably means that Kage is still working on it. If it's not on the list, then he's still transcribing it. So yeah, definitely get with him, because I don't see it currently on the list. Oh, it's Apocrypher. Interesting. So it has the PHA, but it's Apocrypher. Interesting. Okay. I'll have to remember that. I'm curious where where does the dialect come from on that one? Like what kind of language is that would make that? It's interesting. Here's a hint for the 2-string bow. I gave you the inspiration for it via blood magic. Ooh. When did we talk about blood magic? When did we talk about blood magic? Oh my gosh. I almost now want to go back to that episode that I gave you the inspiration, because I have absolutely no idea, but that's interesting. Ages ago. Wow. Okay. Yeah, that must not have been an actual episode, because I don't remember an episode where we did specifically blood magic. So that must have just been like a side tangent. That's interesting. Well, I'm definitely going to be excited for that one. I wonder if Kage knows that. Did you tell that to Kage? Whether or not that does he know that it was based off of a conversation we had? Because I think he'll be more interested in knowing that too, especially when we go through it. The one that you mentioned towards the start of the stream. Oh, the one that you posted in Discord. Right. Gotcha. Okay, so there's that legendary weapon. Okay, so that was the rod of all the weapons. Crafted by the agents, rod is capable of shifting its mass into whatever weapon they want to desire. They gain proficiency in every weapon type. I kind of like that it makes them proficient in whatever weapon they want to be proficient in. Gotcha. Okay, so that was that one. What's this other one you tagged me in? Oh, the mimic suit. Yeah, I have got to look into this. Oof, that is okay. Yeah, that's a lot. I will have to look through that tomorrow, for sure. It's a fighter subclass. Okay, excellent. The lore for the item is around an artificer that regretted not training as a ranger. Interesting. I have no idea how that's going to turn out, but I am interested. So hopefully we'll be able to see the inspirations that we gave. Hecate, it has been fun. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I do think that's going to be the end of tonight's stream. So thank you all much for joining me tonight. I hope you guys had a great weekend. I hope you have a fantastic week ahead of you. Kage will be joining me this Friday. I don't know if it'll be in person or remote. It'll really just depend on the weather. But otherwise, yes, we will be back on Friday at our normal 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we will be talking about, I don't have another topic. I know you guys hear that every single week, but that's kind of how I do it around here. Is I usually use the week to come up with whatever I'm going to be talking about. Probably going to be doing another history of or deep dive. We haven't done one of those. We've been doing a lot of tangent talks and chatting with chat. So I want to actually get into some substance. So actually, Cosmic gave me an idea about arcane focus versus weapons. So I may actually do something with that. I don't know how I will turn that into a topic, but I will try to turn that into a topic. But otherwise, yeah. Thanks everybody for showing up. Thanks. When's the next cocktail creation? Well, it all depends, because those can happen at any random time during a stream if y'all are like giving me ideas, or if we're actually going to be doing it during a community stream. It just depends on if you guys vote for one of the community streams that involve the tavern. And usually if it involves the tavern, I'll probably do creation live on stream. But if you are more interested in that, would you guys be interested in me just doing like regular streams on the weekends where I just do like a hour long like bartending stream where we just talk about it and just do it, not a community stream, but just like a regular weekend one where like I could just do that. If that's interesting, post it in the Discord and I will do a poll. And if everybody's interested, because it's kind of like the gaming stream, right? Everybody was interested, or not everybody, but people were interested in hanging out, watching me game. And so I've been doing my gaming streams a little bit more. So remind me in the Discord, I'll do a poll. And if people like it, I will do like a bartending stream once a month, because I want to do more streams. The more I get more stuff done, the more I want to add stuff in. I just won't be able to add things in. Like D&D discussions is the easiest thing that Kage and I can do every single week, but I'm not going to be able to add in like every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday streams. But if I can say, you know, doing the once a month community streams is great. If I can try to add in one more stream a month where I do say a bartending stream, yeah, I will. If the community wants it, I will do it. I will try and test out any kind of, you know, event or series that you all want to watch. So let me just, you know, I'm going to post that in the Discord now. I'm just going to remind myself in my to-do list. Yeah, tomorrow I will make a poll. Because yeah, I'm definitely never really going to be a major game streamer, but I do enjoy that for just hanging out and just chilling out. But I wouldn't mind expanding the streams to just other areas. I mean, again, you know, the whole idea of being Misfit Gamer Studios isn't all about D&D, right? This is where we started, and that's what I wanted to keep doing is D&D discussions. But Misfit Gamer Studios as a greater deal, I want to tap into everything, right? I want to do a little bit of gaming. I want to do stuff in, you know, that's not just D&D, but I want to do stuff in the tavern. So really just trying to figure out what we can, you know, because I really, once the tavern's done, I really want to get into board games. Like I really want to, you know, not just do, you know, tabletop and D&D games on stream, but I really want to actually like play board games, do testing, you know, do testings like how No Rules Bard does it. You know, go out, you know, get a game that you guys have suggested. We go buy it and then we try it out. We read the instructions, we play it, we learn it. Maybe we do a whole day stream where we try to, you know, get really, really good at it. So I really want to do more stuff like that. I want to do more experimentations, but I just need to know what you guys are interested, because if y'all aren't going to be there to watch, then it's not going to really be useful, right? And especially because, sure, I could do one of those side streams, like a bartending stream, right? And it could maybe it's super huge. Maybe some reason I'm playing a certain game or I'm doing a certain category and it just blows up that day. But that's not going to help me, because those people are probably not going to give two shits about D&D, right? Like they come for the bartending stream, they're probably not going to care about D&D discussions. So it's going to be false growth. What I really want to do is do stuff for the community that we already have and the community that we're growing, because D&D discussions is going to be always our mainstay, right? That's always going to be the bread and butter, and that's always going to be the consistent show that we do. But all of these other series are going to be great, but anybody that we gain from those specific series aren't necessarily the long-term community that we're going to be building with all of you, right? Like we may get some people who join the Discord just for the games or just for the bartending, but at the end of the day, it's going to be mostly figuring out what does the D&D community want to see when we're not talking about D&D. basically kind of the direction I'm going in. Don't remember if you ever did a Friday rant topic about how much. Oh, we have done quite a few episodes of healing. Let me double check. Actually, have we done a history of healing? I want to say we did. I want to say we did. Okay, well, we have a list of all of them. Histories. Where is history? History of. History. Ooh. Wild magic. Okay, so here's all the history of that I know that we've done. Wild magic, ley lines, meta magic, multi-classing, meta magic, simulacrum, virtual casting. Why do we have 2 meta magics? I'm gonna have to figure that out. Classes, loss of power, ranged weapons, armor class, prestige, druids, alignment, divine magic, leveling, druids, alignment, divine power, history of leveling. Have we not done a history of? Are these both the same thing? No, they're not. Okay, these are 2 different ones. They're just named the same thing. Ah, that, okay. That's why. So no, we actually have not done a history of healing before. We've done alignment, leveling, divine magic, prestige, bard, armor class, ranged weapons, loss of power. Okay, so maybe this weekend's gonna be okay. So that's probably what Friday's gonna be, y'all. We're gonna do a history of healing this Friday. Thanks for the reminder there. Yeah, I was looking at those character sheets that sent me. I don't know how those are supposed to be used, to be completely honest. They seem very convoluted and very all over the place for just trying to look up a drink. So I would need to see a few filled out. If you can point me to where, if they've like used those and filled them out, I really need to see one fully done up, because I did look at all of them, and most of the ones that they made looked like they were already for like characters that they built. Like they all had names for like certain characters. So yeah, I need to really understand how they're used, because I didn't quite understand just by looking at those character sheets for drinks how exactly. Just give me like 2 or 3. Like just if there's any of them filled out, I just need to understand how they're using them, because I didn't quite understand how those are supposed to be useful, and maybe I just didn't understand what they were. I thought they were just like supposed to be like recipe sheets that looked like character sheets, but it looks like it's a character sheet with recipe aspects. So yeah, I to be honest, I was just very confused when I looked at it, how I would utilize it. So yeah, if I could see it in use, I think I would understand it a lot better. If I could pick 3 items in the queue, you'd want the predictive edge. Well, you should tell Kage that, and maybe he'll push it up for you. Imagine playing Jumanji as your D&D characters. See, that's this is always a unique idea. I love ideas like this. The problem is it takes the problem with doing that is it takes 2 very different things to make it really successful. One, you need people who, well, you need 3 things that are to make it really successful. One, you need some level of I don't want to say acting ability, but you need some level of understanding how to act as somebody else, right? Like not everybody in D&D can play in character. A lot of people just play a character or control a character, but not a lot of people can like be that character. So regardless of level of acting and actual like indulgence of accent and costume, the one thing that you need is people who can actually like make decisions based off of a D&D character. That's one very difficult thing to obtain. And then the other 2 are knowledge enough of a character, like being able to understand a character both from the player. Like the player has to understand the character fully enough to be able to decide based on that character. But I also feel like the other side of that coin is that the audience also has to know enough of that character for it to matter, because unless you're full on accent with a costume, if nobody knows who that character really is, I don't know if it really has the same effects. Because I've had this idea a lot of times where I'm like, How can we do stuff in character? But that doesn't mean anything until you guys watch us game, right? Like when we talk about Kage's characters, Dovd and Alo, these you can know about what they are. You might know their classes, you might know a little bit of their lore, but until we start gaming on stream, you guys really don't know who Alo and Dovd are. So to have Kage play a game in the style of them, you might notice, because you see Kage all the time, you would notice the differences and maybe how he acts or some of the things he says, or he might describe why he's doing a situation differently than how he would normally decide it. It wouldn't be as impactful as if you had listened to us game and understood who Alo the character was, what he's been through. And those are the hard things to really represent, both for the player and the audience, is who is this character and why does it matter, and why do these actions, why are they different than the actual person? And then again, that first part is when you have both of those, then it's a level of how do you represent that, right? Like the acting ability. It's one, the player has to know enough of the character, the audience has to know enough of the character, and then the player also has to then be able to represent the character for everyone to play along. So I love the idea. I just don't know how I would be able to do it. Like, I don't even know if I would be able to do that with Zenith. Like, playing as Zenith, I know how to play him in game, but that's usually in dialogue and in situations of reactions, right? Playing a board game as a character has a lot more implications, right? Has a much, it would be very difficult because no one really has interacted with Zenith on that level, except for maybe Dovd. So it is just difficult to really represent what that would mean outside of just listening to me play the game. But I wish more people who had established characters would do that. You know what I mean? Like, be able to get into a character that everybody can recognize and see you enact, I think is really powerful and really fun. I just don't think we have any established characters that we could do that with. But I will say this, in light of that, one way that I have tried to accomplish that is working with my players and in my games sometimes, where I'll give them challenges and I'll actually swap the gameplay for another game. Like, I love doing things like, if you're going to go up against, somebody and you challenge them to, say, a game of chess, you'll play a game of chess against me. Like, we'll just sit there and we'll play a game of chess, and that will be the in-game. Like, you'll be bantering with the person, you'll be playing the game in character, but you'll also be playing the game IRL. And you could do something very similar in-game in a normal campaign, but there are some games, obviously, like, Jumanji, that would be hard to shoehorn into an already established game, right? Like, chess is kind of easy. Something like Jumanji would be a little bit more difficult to throw into the whole lore. So I like the idea. I just don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it well. False growth sounds like an insult bards use to bash each other instead of overdone. Your mom's this, your mom's that. Yeah, I kind of like that. Like, yeah, your audiences are false growth. Your what else would you say? It's like yeah, talk about like how you've never sold out. It's like you may have sold out, but you've never sold out a show. Oh, that would be a good one for a bard. It's like, yeah, you may, like, for a famous bard who like paid their way to the top or whatever, who basically, like, nepotism, had their family. Like, that would be a really good one from a bard who actually, like, had the background where they earned their way up there. I like that. Being good at vicious mockery isn't easy. Which class did I want to see? What do you mean? Which class did I want to see? History of healing with a health potion cocktail? Maybe. Let me write that down. Let me write that down. If the audience wants it, maybe we'll do, maybe what I can start doing is once a month, once every other Friday, maybe we'll add a cocktail to the episode, so it's not just community streams. We'll see. Maybe I'll do it this Friday to see how it goes off, and if it works. Because the thing is, like, I'm not set up to do bartending in here, so I'd have to, like, bring in a bunch of my stuff to, like, try to make it, and it's not as easy. But we'll see. I'll think about it. Don't know what you mean by which class I want to see. Remember your old comment about fighter wizard multiclass using a set of swords called Hands of Time? Predictive edge would effectively be the minute hand of that set due to its length and reach property. Interesting. Sorry, brain went off to a different tangent of thinking about like Hands of Time, and now I'm just wondering, like, can you imagine a sword or a weapon that at the start of each day has a certain number of charges, and each charge is like based on like your level and like a proficiency modifier or something, but like each charge is an amount of damage. And the idea is that at any point throughout the day, you can expend the charges to increase the damage of any one of your hits. I'd have to spend some time on how the mechanic would work, but I like the idea that for every charge you expend, you are taking damage away from a future attack. Basically, like before a certain time frame like elapses, basically you're stealing from future attacks. So you have up to a certain amount of damage that you can steal, but at some point that damage is going to be reduced at a future point. And I would want to say, instead of it just being the DM's choice, because then it could be overabused, I'd almost want it to be like a roll. You could even do that craps rolls. So it's like, you know, at the start of each day, there's like, you know, your level times your proficiency modifier in extra points or something, or extra damage the weapon can do. But every time you use it, you must tally up like what you've done. And then anytime, let's say like you roll a 7 on the die, whatever, or, you know, yeah, either like a 7 or, you know, whenever you would like hit someone's AC exactly, at that point you reduce the damage. Well, I guess no, you have to hit over their AC. So you'd have to have a trigger where at a future point, if a certain trigger was met, that's the attack that the damage came from. So you can have all of this stored up damage in this sword, and it would just rack up. But at some point, when you made a certain roll, damage would be taken away from that attack as the one that you used before. So kind of like, because you mentioned a weapon based on like the Hands of Time, and I'm just like, that would be kind of cool if you could just say, I want right now to pump damage into this attack because it's important, and I don't care what attack it takes it from in the future. But not knowing what attack it'll take it from in the future would be really interesting. But you'd have to make a trigger that made the most sense to track, and that's the hardest part. Yeah, I don't know how you would like trigger that, but I do like the idea of some sort of like taking something you've done in the future and then removing it. But it would be easier actually to do it the other way. It would actually be easier to say, you know, whenever, what about this? What about a weapon where whenever you crit, you can choose to do normal damage instead and send the crit damage into the future. And you can do this, say, a number of times equal to your proficiency modifier. So you can just sit there and add it up like up to 6 times. And then once it's there, at any point in the future, you could pull that potential damage that you've been storing up and then unleash it in an attack at your current time. So either way, being able to pull damage from the future or pull damage from the past, a unique aspect for a weapon. I'd like to see that in a weapon. Which class for the boost sheets? Did you have a favorite? I don't remember any of the names. Do you like the cleric and the barbarian and maybe the rogue? Any combination of those 3, I think, would give me enough that I need to understand how they're used. But I didn't really look. I was too confused on how to use them. I wasn't really looking at their whole design, but I did like the names. The names were really clever. Oh, submit that for Kage to review. That would be interesting. I think I would just rather I would rather build it with him. I'd rather just like have the idea on stream and then we build it together than try to build it myself. And then have him just look at it. I think that would be better for content wise. because most of that would just be me sitting back listening to him, you know, read my weapon, and I'd just much rather just like actually like have a back and forth instead of just a one-off. But maybe we will. I'm gonna write that down, because that's how we do things. We just write it down. So we'll just have 2 weapons. Maybe I'll just look at 2 weapons. One that steals attacks damage from the past, and I'll try to make one that steals it from the future. We'll figure out which way that we can balance it. We'll figure out which way is best. That makes sense. Could work if there are 2 D12s instead of 12 hours in a day, 2 sets of 12s. Roll the D12. You have that many charges. You can use a charge to do that much extra damage on a hit, or reduce damage by the same amount. When in doubt, write it out. Yeah, exactly. That's what I think I'm going to do, is I'm going to have to write this out, because I really like the idea, because I mean, it's one of the things that, like, there's so many things that give you more damage and stuff, but it's kind of cool to do like a borrowed thing, right? Where, like, you know, like, I don't even know what would make the most sense in terms of a trigger, because it would have to be a trigger that's easily obtainable, but not super rare, but would happen often enough that it's a potential, but also something that everybody would like know when it happens, right? You wouldn't want to do like something that's math calculated, where you'd have to you know, do all of these extra layers of figuring out, does it, you know, go right? That's what I was like, oh, on a roll of a 7, but then I was thinking, like, how many times can you roll a 7 and hit AC, right? Like, because it has to be able to be like on a hit when you're about to do damage. So, you know, you could do it like on a countdown. So it's like, you know, when you use it, roll a certain, you know, like a D8, or like Cosmic said, a D12, and in that many attacks, that's when it takes the damage away. But then again, that's like, then does it, you know, you have to keep that over from one combat to the next, and then it gets kind of confusing. So yeah, I'm gonna have to write it out. I'm gonna have to figure this one out. Anyway, I've been talking for like an extra half hour longer than I wanted to. So that's what you guys get. You guys get an extra half hour. That's y'all's doing. Send the filling sheets to your DMs if that's okay. That's totally fine. If you don't want to, yeah, I don't want to share extra that isn't necessarily for the Discord. So that's totally fine. But yeah, so I think I'm going to call it there. Thank you all so much for joining me, for keeping the conversation going. It's always fantastic when you guys keep me going and keep me company. Like I said, so this Friday, expect History of Leveling. That's going to be a really fun one. I might even do a cocktail, maybe. That'd be kind of fun. Otherwise, I hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you guys have a fantastic week ahead of you. Kage will be back in the studio on Friday with me, so we will have a lot of fun going over the history of healing, figuring out why it has not always been the greatest, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about how we think healing should be done. Yes, healing, not leveling. Leveling was last time. History of healing. That is what we'll be doing. Yes, that is what we'll be doing on Friday. So keep an eye out for that. Also, I will be, wait, do I have, oh yes, I will have a poll out tomorrow discussing bartending streams. So I'll put a poll out and see if you guys want more bartending streams. So if you want to vote on that, join the Discord. Link is in chat. If you also want to follow us anywhere on social medias, you can do that. All of our links are on our link tree, and that is also in chat as well. So go ahead and check us out there. Otherwise, again, thank you everybody for showing up and hanging out with me, talking, chatting. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. We'll be back on Friday, guys. Cheers. We'll be back on Fridays, guys. Cheers.